Hello there. Welcome on in. Thank you so much for coming in for a bit of our survey of sorts. So, today's survey is really just going to be testing how you recognize faces. So I have images of about 100 famous faces, you would say, right? From different sorts of fame. And it's perfectly fine if you do not recognize the face, that's fine. However, if you do, you would just let me know who they are, and I would make notes. As I said, this is just a general kind of survey test to see how many of these 100 faces a normal person like yourself would recognize today. How does that sound? Okay, let me just bring up a new form. So as I said, it's roughly 100 images. Okay. You will notice that all of these famous faces are in black and white. Perfect. So the face will pop up on your screen here. And like I said, if you could just tell me if you know them. Now there is degrees of how you could answer this. Do you recognize their face? Do you know them by name? Do you know what they're famous for? You know, any of the variety of answers is acceptable, and there's no right or wrong answer. You don't have to know all 100 of these particular people. Okay, good. Okay, so let me just get this going for us. Any questions before we start? Okay, here we go. Right. First up, do you recognize this face? Nelson Mandela. And here we go. Do you recognize this face? Okay. I know she's quite lovely. Drew Barrymore. Yes, I love her. And do you recognize this face? Pedro Pascal. Yes, has been more popular in the recent years from The Mandalorian and Last of Us. And next, do you recognize this face here? Okay. Chris Evans. think these days his most popular role is Captain America. Steve Rogers. Alright, and do you recognize this person? Alright, and Danny Trail. You know, I think the first thing I saw him in was Spy Kids. Next. And do you know who this is? Recognize their face? Alright. Laverne Cox. I was introduced to her on Orange is the New Black. Have you seen that show? Oh, I love it. I've rewatched it many times. Okay. Next. Do you know who this is? The gorgeous Rihanna. Of course, musician, but she has dove into the world of acting as well. What's that movie I like her in? I can't think of it. It's kind of about an alien invasion. It got bad reviews, but I really liked it. Okay. Do you know who this is? Alright, Zendaya. I remember seeing her on Dancing with the Stars back in the day. I think she is, I would consider, one of the most talented and popular in the current age group, if you will. The up-and-coming generation. She's quite lovely. Alright. Next. Do you know who this face is? Stevie Nicks. Fantastic singer, songwriter. White witch, some would say. Yes. Got her start in Fleetwood Mac, and then of course did solo work as well. Oh, she still puts on quite a good show, I can assure you. Okay. Next. Do you know this face? It's Prince, the musician. Do you have a favorite Prince song? I'm partial to When the Doves Cry. I think that's my favorite. Right. And do you know this face? Yeah. Carrie Fisher, one of my personal faves. Actress and writer. Yes, of course, mostly known for Princess Leia, though I would highly recommend some of her books. It's quite funny. On my list here, lots of people say that Carrie and Stevie share similar facial features. And in some photos and video footage, they definitely have similar faces. Anyway, next. Do you know this person? I guess it depends on the type of reading you like. Yes, that is Stephen King. Do you have a favorite Stephen King book? And I guess movie these days? That's a good one. You know, I recently, well, within the year, watched Doctor Sleep, and I really enjoyed that film. It's kind of a sequel to The Shining. Okay. Next. Do you know this face? I would say most people do. Yeah. Princess Diana Spencer. Oh, yes. Quite beautiful indeed. Alright, next. Are you familiar with this person? Alright. Yes, some of these pictures will be like throughout different times in the famous face's life, if you will. Yes. But you know this one? Perfect. So, Harrison Ford. I believe this photo is roughly maybe from the late 90s, I believe, but I could have shown you a picture from 1977 if I wanted to, so he has had a long and successful career. Okay. Good. Next. Do you know this face? Beyonce. Do you like Beyonce's music? Oh yes, well, I was in the age group, of course, that was introduced to Destiny's Child. I did, however, see a clip from her current tour where her daughter Blue Ivy comes out and is dancing with her, and it's actually a very cute moment. She's a fantastic dancer, her daughter. Right, next up. Do you know this face here? Yes, like familiar faces, of course, but some people differ if the particular actor in this case is out of character. Yeah, good. So, Tom Hiddleston, very well known for Loki in the MCU. Yes, I'd say that Tom Hiddleston's picture here is not quite as mischievous as the Loki face would be. And do you know this famous face? Britney Spears. What's your favorite Britney song? I know you have one. That's a good one. I do like that. I like Toxic myself. Britney Spears was actually the first concert I ever went to. Okay. And do you know this famous face? Perfect. Tessa Thompson. I'm more familiar with her from, yes, Marvel, Valkyrie. I recently watched an episode of Cold Case with her that was very nice too, so she is a lovely actress. Next, are you familiar with this face here? Another very popular actress, I would say, in this up-and-coming generation, although I honestly don't know how old she is. She seems younger than me, so generation after mine, if you would. But yes, she's Yelena in Marvel, but she has done some fantastic roles. Yes, what was that one that she did? Midsummer, was it? I haven't personally seen it, but I hear good things. And then there was, of course, the Don't Worry, Darling, that I also haven't seen, but I have seen some other films with her. She's quite lovely. Her interviews are always quite good, too. And do you know this face? Malcolm X. Very good. And do you know this face? So Isabella. Yes, gorgeous. Again, she has done quite a few things, though. Kind of a sci-fi queen, if you would. She is from Marvel as Gamora, but she was in Star Trek as Uhura, and she was also in Avatar. I would definitely say kind of a sci-fi queen, and some other great films as well. Alright, do you know this face? Yes. Julie Andrews, younger. Julie Andrews. Maybe a little bit before Mary Poppins. And do you know this face? To this day, I will say one of the best comedians ever. And do you know this face? Michael Jordan. I'm a basketball fan. Okay. And do you know this face? Reba McEntire. Another younger picture, yes. Are you familiar with this person? Yes, the beautiful Michelle Pfeiffer. Ooh, fantastic filmography there. And are you familiar with this face? Okay. Elizabeth Olsen. Another Marvel face. She plays Wanda Maximoff in Marvel these days, but fantastic actress as well. I won't be surprised if she doesn't get nominated for Love and Death series she's in. This is quite... I first saw her long before she was an actress, if you will, because I was a fan of the Olsen twins growing up, and that's their little sister who made cameos in their work. Alright. And you know this face here? Tupac, yes. And do you have a favorite Tupac song? Good. And are you familiar with this face here? Mm-hmm. Albert Einstein, yes. And you know this face here? Eminem. Do you have a favorite Eminem song? I was always a fan of Stan. And what about this face here? Amelia Earhart. And this face here. Angelina Jolie. Do you have a favorite Angelina Jolie film? I personally think she makes a fantastic Maleficent, but she has quite an excellent filmography as well. And do you recognize this famous face here? It is in fact a painting, so it's a little bit older than photography, if you will. Anne Boleyn, one of Henry VIII's wives, his second wife, actually. Okay. And do you recognize this face here? Morgan Freeman. I do love that so many people default Morgan Freeman's voice to the sound of the heavens, if you will. And do you recognize this face here? Anne Hathaway. I personally am a huge Devil Wears Prada fan and Princess Diaries. She's quite lovely though. And do you recognize this face here? Okay. Snoop Dogg, of course. Great. And do you recognize this face here? Olivia Newton-John, probably best known for Grease. Do you know this face here? Angela Bassett, another fantastic actress that I could name so many things on her filmography that I love from her. Do you have a favorite? Okay. And do you know this face here? Is Judy Garland, yes. Probably best known for Dorothy. Do you know this face here? Danny DeVito. Which, if you believe other actors in the industry, apparently is a very kind person. He and his wife let the actress that played Matilda stay at their home when her mother was going through cancer treatment. So when you hear a lot of negative things about the industry, it's nice to have those happy stories. And do you recognize this face here? Of course, Miss Dolly Parton. I think a lot of people say 9 to 5 is their favorite song from her, but I love Jolene. Jolene forever. Have you ever been to Dollywood? I haven't myself. Alright. And do you know this face here? That is Dick Van Dyke. It's a fantastic smile even to this day. Just kind of erupts in happiness. And do you know this face here? Yes, Iowa Davis. Do you know this face here? Millie Bobby Brown definitely got kind of claim to fame on Stranger Things, where she plays 11. She's actually engaged to Bon Jovi's son these days, which is super cute. And do you recognize this face here? Steven Spielberg. Lots of great movies on his filmography page. Do you have a favorite Spielberg movie? Yes, I'm afraid there's a lot to choose from. And do you recognize this face here? Lucy Liu. She's another one that I love her smile so much. It just like shines with happiness. I don't know. Contagious is the word. She's quite lovely. Love her smile. Okay. And do you know this space here? Freddie Mercury, yes. Most famous for being the lead singer of Queen, of course. Right. And you know this face here? Antonio Banderas. I think I've had a crush on him since I saw him in Zorro or Spy Kids. No, which did I see first? I'm not sure which I saw first, but he was the hot dad in Spy Kids, and of course he was Zorro in Zorro. And do you recognize this face here? Selena Gomez. Do you recognize this face here? Reese Witherspoon. And do you recognize this face here? I will say she looks a little different in this. Emma Watson, best known for playing Hermione Granger. And do you recognize this face here? Lady Gaga. Do you have a favorite Lady Gaga song? I think I like Alejandro. And do you recognize this face here? Yes, Frida Kahlo, famous painter. And do you recognize this face here? Eva Longoria. I really started watching her on Desperate Housewives. Okay. And do you know this face here? Grant Green. No spoilers, of course, but he recently had like a little cameo in the Last of Us series. That was one of my favorite parts of the show, honestly. Okay. And do you recognize this face here? Idris Elba. Do you recognize this face here? Oprah Winfrey. And do you recognize this face here? Holly Berry. Do you recognize this face here? Indeed. Aretha Franklin. incredible voice. And do you know this face here? Yes. Taylor Swift. Are you a Swiftie? I think that's what they call the super fans. And do you know this face here? Yes, that is in fact Edgar Allan Poe. Writer, yes indeed. The Raven and the Tell Heart is the ones that come to my mind. And you know this face here? Pamela Anderson. Do you know this face here? Yes, that is Beethoven. And do you know this face here? Natalie Portman, another fantastic filmography. Some of my favorite films feature Natalie Portman. Right. And do you recognize this face here? That is Irene Bedard, actress indeed. And do you know this face here? His name is James Hong. Yes, I feel like I've seen him in so many things. He's had quite a long career, so it makes sense that I've seen him in a lot of things. And you know this face here? Jenna Ortega, another one, the upcoming generation, very popular with the Scream franchise and Wednesday, and she's going to be in the new Beetlejuice. Very popular, very talented girl. I like her acting. And you know this face here? Joan Jett, yes. One of my favorite musicians. My friend actually just drove through and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and sent me pictures of the Joan Jett exhibits. And you know this face here? Yes, that is Katherine Johnson. Her story was part of the Hidden Figures movie. She worked for NASA. Yes, extremely intelligent. And you know this face here? Jennifer Lawrence. I'd say really got her claim to fame from The Hunger Games, but she's been in quite a few things since then. Do you know this face here? Marilyn Monroe. Old Hollywood glamour. And do you know this face here? Marie Antoinette, yes. Queen of France for a time. And you know that face here? That is Marie Curie. Okay. And you know this face here? Marsha P. Johnson, yes, extremely important activist within the LGBT community. And you know this face here? Michelle Yeoh. And do you recognize this face here? Martin Luther King Jr. Do you recognize this face here? Meryl Streep. Do you recognize this face here? It's Walt Disney. And this face here? That is Tim Curry. Quite a mix on his filmography as well, but very talented. And you know this face here? Bella Ramsey. I believe they have done other things, but they really got kind of claim to fame more recently when they were in The Last of Us. And you know this actress here? Yes, kind of actress turned princess, Grace Kelly. Do you know this face here? Twiggy. You're doing quite well. We're getting there. We're almost finished. Do you know this face here? Elizabeth Taylor. Do you recognize this face here? Abraham Lincoln, one of the U.S. presidents. Do you know this face here? Audrey Hepburn. this face here. Queen Elizabeth II. And you know this face here. Rita Moreno, very popular from West Side Story, and I've seen some of her newer shows, and she's very funny. Do you know this face here? Betty White's, love her. Do you know this face here? Rosa Parks, yes. Good. Do you know this face here? Jackie Chan, yes. The amount of stunts this man has done on his own is so crazy to me. And you know this is here? Serena Williams, yes. And you know this face here? It is Stephen Hawking. A little bit of a trick. A lot of people relate his image to when he was later in life and more in his wheelchair. But this is an earlier photo, I believe, at one of his weddings. Do you know this face here? But of course, Samuel L. Jackson. Do you know this face here? Selma Hayek. I think the first thing I saw her in was the movie Fool's Russian, and I had the biggest crush on her because Selma Hayek is absolutely gorgeous. Selma Hayek. Yes. Right. I believe we have 6 or so left. Right. Do you know this face here? Sandra Oh. She plays my favorite character, Grey's Anatomy. But she was quite honored in Canada, part of Canada's delegation and whatnot, so she's quite lovely. Right, and do you know this face? That is Vincent van Gogh. And do you know this face here? Whitney Houston. Good job. Do you know this face here? Elton John. This face here. Jamie Lee Curtis. our last picture here. Do you know this picture, this face here? Anne Frank, yes. Perfect. Let me just lock in all of your answers. We really do appreciate you coming in today and taking the time to look at those 100 photos. Good. Looks like I have you all set for your time. We do have a gift card for you up at the front desk, so be sure to stop by on your way out. Again, thank you so much for coming in. Of course. You take care.